people along in order to vitiate any claims of any ethnic or whatever regional-based president. So the whole intendment of the Constitution is to ensure not less than a quarter of the votes cast in not less than 2/3 of the Federation. Now, we know that we don't have the problem of 2/3 of 19 now. We have 36 states. So it's very clear to everybody that 24 states are necessary for the president to carry the day. Now, in terms of geopolitics, which you've brought into the picture, we have the North, so-called, because there's no longer any monolithic North, but you have what, I think it was Abacha who brought about these geopolitical zones. It was first suggested by, I believe, Alex Ekweme at the confab in 1994. So we now have 6 geopolitical zones. So you have northwest, northeast, you have central Nigeria, you have southwest, you have southeast, and you have south-south. So if you are going to go by the geopolitical zones, 6 of them, then maybe for the president to win the majority of the votes cast, he should have won in not less than, if you will, 2/3 of the 6 geopolitical zones. So, and 2/3 of 6, if you will, I would say 4 states, 4 zones. Here, people have said that General Buhari, for instance, is a candidate of the North, but the North can't go it alone. President Goodluck Jonathan cannot project himself as the candidate of the South-South, even though he's from the South-South. So there has to be some political arrangement. I'm not talking of gerrymandering, but the president of Nigeria, in order to be seen as having a national mandate, should carry 4 geopolitical zones out of the 6. So that is the joker for us now in 2015.
Let me get to Catch on Jew, who is on Skype. He is standing by. He joins us from our studios in Abuja, and that should pop up soon. Yes, there he is. Catch, how will this equation play out for you, this general election, in terms of the spread now? Whoever will be president.
The spread is good, but of course the spread, it's political semantics and requirements. We know very well now, spread or no spread, even if you're to win the 4 geopolitical zones and you still do not have the Northwest, which is actually the area where the emphasis is on. And you have to understand that historically, there's a reason why the Northwest has been like this. As I was saying earlier, when we got into this democracy initially, it was the Northwest. And then the introduction of political Sharia. The political Sharia, to a lot of force, was a tepid rejection of the democracy and the changes it forced, which actually forced some quality of this entitlement of privileges previously held by certain leaders who were very prominent in Nigeria's polity during the days of dictatorship. But democracy, yes, can bring you changes, but does not give you everything you want. And what did we have? Those places where political Sharia was introduced were the same places where the mutation of the political Sharia now changed from political Sharia into what you today call the Boko Haram. So I still see it holistically as a general rejection of changes forced by democracy. And that's where we now come to. What does liberal societies around the world give to those who have advantages and suddenly lose it when you bring democracy and then it brings changes that they do not have? Even though you do not agree to war, when you take away guns from soldiers after a war, you still give them something in displacement value.
Okay,
now,
Catch.
This is where the crisis is. So I believe no matter what we say, we need to sit down as people of one country and face this crisis. If tomorrow General Buhari wins, of course me and you know the people from the Niger Delta will say we have shown that violence works. So what would they do? They will force the oil majors to declare a force majeure. That's why you saw Mr. John Terry come here. Mr. Terry didn't come because he liked our face. No, because the oil majors have told them that the boys have been there in the creek taking measurements of the manifolds and the oil installations.
Okay, Catherine, we'll come back to that in just a moment. Let's move on to the next segment.
We've been promised the violence will sustain. So we need to sit down and agree.
All right, Catch, just hang on. Hang on. We'll come back to you. He has a lot to get up today. But let's also remind you that you can send a comment or two to us here today on the program. But we've changed the hashtag question for you today. And that is, in the light of what you've seen, all the comments making the rounds, don't forget it's hashtag INEC ready or hashtag INEC not ready. And so if you happen to have collected your permanent voter card or not, just go ahead and tell us. Don't forget, you can also email your question or comments to us here today on the program. It's Nigeria2015@channelstv.com. But we did tell you that we have our correspondent standing by to bring us up to speed concerning what is going on where they are. Well, Linda Higbe is in Abuja. Linda.
The international community has always been interested in elections in Nigeria, and it's not different this time around. The European Union has deployed an election observation mission for the forthcoming general elections. Now, the EU election observation mission to Nigeria is made up of 90 observers, some of whom are already in the country. Members of the mission met with the APC presidential candidate, retired General Muhammadu Buhari, and the leadership of the party today in Abuja. The meeting was an opportunity for the EU election observation mission to inform the APC of how it intends to monitor the election. The meeting proper was actually held behind closed doors, but the EU team briefed journalists afterwards, and then one of the striking things that was said was that the EU election observation mission would not be going to the northeastern part of the country to monitor the elections because of a security crisis in that area. The EU chief observer, Mr. Santiago Axila, also told journalists that after the elections, the EU would put together a report about the conduct of elections and would then make necessary recommendations. This report would then be presented to the president. Now back to you, Chamberlain.
All right, thank you, Linda. Linda Higbe, our correspondent from Abuja, bringing us up to speed on what is going on where she is at the moment. Well, we still have our guest here with us, but we'll come back to other issues in the news. Well, gentlemen, let's talk about what should we be doing to ensure, if not reduce any potential or any intended or any violence to its barest minimum. Julie?
I think we have history on our side. The 1993 elections has been described as perhaps the most free election we've had in recent history. And there are two major ingredients that allowed 1993 to be classified as free and fair. The first is Abiola then won 10 out of the 17 states in northern Nigeria. And he also won 11 out of the 15 states in southern Nigeria. Those two key ingredients being that it was not only popular in northern Nigeria, it was accepted by majority of those that voted in northern Nigeria, and it was also accepted by majority of those that voted in southern Nigeria. That's the ingredient both and other candidates in this election need to focus on. That is the core ingredient that would reduce violence. That is the core ingredient that would reduce the insecurity concerns we have as of today in Nigeria.
All right, so thank you, Judy. We'll have to take a quick break now, but we'll be back and continue our focus today on Nigeria 2015.